Hello and welcome everybody back to my channel. Today I'm joined for the second time, my dear friend Leah Ray. Welcome back, Leah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm super excited for this conversation. So Leah and I have been talking offline and we thought it would be a really nice idea to just bring up some topics that we feel people are struggling with, friends, family, and the collective in general at large, and just kind of give our advice and talk about what we're seeing with our clients day to day, and how we think that we can help everyone. So we'll just go through a bunch of different topics. But before we get there, how have you been doing, Leah? What have you been up to?
Um, well, I've been working an interesting job, which has caused me to be in the public more, which has been a good learning experience for me. I like to be in a hermit mode away from a lot of people in general. When I do readings, I like to do it out in nature, but I had taken a job just temporarily and it's causing me to be in the presence of a lot more people, which has been really good for me just to expand my practice. But it's been also interesting because I'm kind of interacting with people I normally wouldn't necessarily bump into. So I've been noticing a lot of interesting stuff. So it's been great just to share with my friends like you who are sensitive because it's hitting me in ways that I just wasn't expecting. So it would be great to actually talk to you because you're sensitive too. So you can share your gifts of how to navigate because there were many times I was like, "Oh no, what am I doing?" But I also it pushed me to get my energy into a frequency where I hadn't been in a lower frequency for a long time, and now this job is causing me to go there. So I've had to practice a lot more, which has been really good, but it's also been challenging.
I think it's actually good that you started with that, because a lot of the clients that I work with are just beautiful souls, and they are, for financial reasons, just like most of us, are kind of stuck in their 3D job.
Mhm.
But the rest of their life they spend in nature or doing their spiritual practices or meditation, or they just kind of recluse from the 3D altogether because they're generally put off by it.
Right.
So I think there's this tone right now for a lot of people to navigate the 3D world from a much higher consciousness. And that in and of itself is an entire conversation too, but maybe we could pinpoint some things that we're seeing right now or ways to help, because I think that is the biggest challenge. Is how do you grow in consciousness and expand your mindfulness and want to attract abundance and a new reality, while
Right.
still living around a lot of 3D people, or having a 3D job, or being just in the 3D in general, going to the grocery store, and it's a
Right.
melting pot of a lot of different energies. Um, are you seeing that with your clients, Leo? And also, how are you helping them to navigate through that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess people that are sensitive like us that I have my Akashic readings with, a lot of them have been able to spend a lot more time in nature, like you said, but for those that are participating in that 3D realm, they've had to either spend more time in nature or um, meditate more. It's interesting, a lot of people have their instructions from their guides and masters have been to do Tai Chi or Qigong,
Yeah.
um, to lay down on the earth, to actually connect with the earth energy in such a deeper way. And I sometimes I don't listen to my guides. And so like the times when I was like, oh my God, I'm at 0%, I have zero reserves. I would then go and do those practices. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's life changing. Like I literally felt reserves come back into my energy or I felt my aura was stronger. People had to start putting more boundaries up, whether that's, well, energetic boundaries, but also um, spending time in nature and doing those specific practices allows their auras to be much stronger and more resilient, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I think what you hit it right there. It's the stronger our auras are and the more boundaries we have, the less likely we are to get sucked in to the 3D. So it's almost like we can live in this parallel reality where we're interacting with people at our jobs or even at the grocery store. Like I always give that example because I'm there quite a lot.
Yeah.
So many mouths to feed in my house.
Yeah.
And it's like doing that, but still making sure that you are in your own energy bubble and you're not pulling in
Right.
inadvertently everyone else's drama, because a lot of people are walking around with distorted or disrupted auric fields, and it's can be quite disconcerting, and you can feel it, and they're agitated, they're angry, they're looking for fights. And I just tell people, don't engage, just pass right by and don't allow their energy to mix with your energy so you don't accidentally carry that home with you.
Well, yeah, because like when I used to do massages and facials, and I was in that world, almost not every day, but at least 4 to 5 days a week. And the anger I found out was the quickest energy, or I don't know, I guess it was the fastest energy I would absorb. And I
Mhm.
was like, why am I so angry suddenly? And wasn't my anger, it was the client's anger. So I had to learn real quick how to protect myself. I would practice just with a lot of like energy spheres or circles or pyramids. Like I would use a lot of different shapes
Mhm.
just to see what one was the strongest for me. Because I was touching people, I'd put also color and protection in my hands, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
interchange that. I would send love and light, but I wouldn't receive their lower frequencies. I mean, of course, it's a practice still, but because even in now people's auras, I'm not touching them, but I'm feeling their energy when they walk through the door. And unfortunately, a few of them, a lot of them have had a lot of self-loathing. So that will hit me right when they walk into I work in like a medical clinic. So um, that will actually penetrate. I'll be behind my computer looking down at the screen, and I'll feel that frequency
Mhm.
right when they walk in, and I get goosebumps. I get this horrible frequency that just wash over me. And it's sad because like there have been days when I wasn't keeping my energy strong, and I'd leave crying. I'd leave with all of this frequency that wasn't mine, but it was a lot of self-loathing. I hate my body. I hate myself.
Yeah.
Like sadness that I feel my heart would go out to them, but at the same time, I was like, this is draining me. Like I wouldn't be present for my partner in a way where he could
Mhm.
tell right away, like this job is really not helping you. Um, so I
Yeah.
had to, and I'm still practicing, but I can only imagine for those out there too that are doing this every day, all day, for years. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I think that a lot of people, as they are doing the healing work, going within, becoming more spiritual, tapping into that, their intuition,
Mhm.
they're becoming more connected to their empathy, and they're more sensitive than they've ever been before. So that's a new territory for a lot of people who have otherwise blocked it throughout their life in many ways, whether it's just ignoring or, substances to block it, consciously, like, oh, I'll just drink a beer and just, disconnect from the world, or I'll just watch TV and go into their world and forget about mine. So there's lots of different ways to numb yourself. And I think that when you are really in it and very present, it's harder to block that, because we shouldn't block it. We need to feel it, but
Right.
it's really challenging um, energy to find yourself in if you don't, one, if you're not prepared, or two, if you don't have the tools.
Right.
So I worked at the National Zoo for 10 years. The first three were the most magical years of my life, like professionally. I mean, it was magical. Okay, then the next couple of years were like meh. And it started to get progressively worse and worse. And the last 3 years that I was there, I was in management, and I wasn't working with the animals as much, more conservation, program management, working with some really difficult people. Like I felt like I was in the middle of it, and it was really challenging. There's a lot more details, but it's not important. The point is, it was so hard.
Yeah.
And I would cry every day going home. I was so miserable. I hated my life. I would find myself getting angry and depressed. I'd be so happy to get home and then I'd walk in the door and then something would set me off and then I would be just angry the rest of the night. And I'm like, all I wanted to do was come home. But now when I come home, I'm causing fights in my house because I have all this anger that I didn't realize at the time was not mine. And it took me a long time to realize that. In hindsight now, like it's very clear, but at the time I couldn't understand it. I didn't know how to create the boundaries, how to block the energy. It was
Right.
so hard. And I feel like a lot of people are still feeling that right now. And I got out of there quick. Well, not quick, it was 3 years, but when I finally realized it, I decided I just left and came home one day and I was like, I quit my job to my husband. He was like, what? Was so it was not a good, it wasn't, I don't recommend anybody be irresponsible like I was in the moment, but I just had enough. I just needed to I just needed to rip it off quickly.
Yes.
Um, but so what are some of the ways that you recommend people navigate those situations who can't quit their job?
Yes.
Um, and just need help right now. Can they just like, I can't quit my job. So what can you guys tell me to do? You know what I mean?
No, and I get it because I'm trying to navigate an exit plan and I'm like, oh, I have heart connections now with the clients. I have heart connections now with my coworkers. And part of me is like, oh goodness, what's going to happen if I leave? Like, are they going to be okay? And I'm sure they're going to be just fine. But um, what I first had to figure out, because I was also realizing if I wasn't in a high frequency going to work because I really was dreading the day, I had to shift while on my drive in. So I have a whole practice before I get out of bed of I have to ground my energy into Mother Earth's Father Sky. I have to do this whole ritual for me just to feel strong because
Yeah.
energetically I um I can have my energy so wide open that I'll absorb the car next to me's energy of like the driver that's like upset or angry or driving crazy. So I have to really get into a bubble. It's like it feels like a bubble, but it's a lot of pyramids and stuff. I actually ended up eventually just sometimes using a Merkaba or a tetrahedron. And anyway, all these different shapes. So I practice with shapes a lot, but it's definitely just allowing my energy to be strong before I leave the house. And that's just grounding and getting into the layers of protection for me, which is just a practice that I've had to use throughout the years. The layers are sometimes it's armor of God. It can be that strong. Like if I know there's a day energy of, oh my gosh, this is going to be a hard day. I've used that. I've used the breastplate of Saint Patrick. There's a beautiful prayer. I just it came up in someone's Akashic records. So
Hmm.
I read it and I said, oh, it's so gentle and loving for me. But a lot of people have found it's very really helpful because you're putting almost like a north, south, east, west, just all this beautiful energy. To me, it
Yeah.
feels like love everywhere. Love in
Mhm.
front of me, love behind me, love to my left, love to my right. So, um, but I have to do that before I even leave my house. And then once I get in my car, I actually have to start saying, let's bring joy into the clinic. Let's bring happiness. I've lifted my frequency by just laughing throughout the day.
Yes. Yeah.
Trying to make jokes with my coworker because my coworker was also not having a great day and wasn't happy there. And so I realized let's just have fun. Let's see
That's
what
good.
this is experience. Just make jokes with everyone that comes through the door, make jokes throughout the day. And like we literally have had a blast. And ironically, like our numbers went up into the places where they were supposed to be. So we actually had more success when we were just laughing and joking around all day. But it was more of we kind of eased into a calmness of just let's enjoy today, as crazy as it is. And we literally have, I mean, God bless these people around this office where I'm at, but there's unfortunately, a lot of people using drugs and in the parking lot or like in the back alley. And it's like heavy stuff. There's like needles and stuff. So it's
Oh,
not always a high vibrational energy around the clinic. So then we just start making jokes like about, okay, so it's actually shifted in a beautiful way. And that's actually, I've noticed our numbers went to the better frequencies as well. So it rippled. But then our clients are actually more embracive and they're sharing more of their lives with us because we're kind of easing into the frequency and just having fun, as crazy as it is. Like we literally having, I mean, no offense to these people, but we have a lot of people that are using darker frequency, like crackheads and unfortunately homeless that are really going into the depths of despair around, like we see that throughout the day. So we're trying to just shift the frequency throughout the day because it's literally every 30 minutes I have to make sure the energy is high. So
Yeah.
it's been an interesting journey. It's actually been helpful because I've actually had to start practicing again in a stronger way. Whereas before I could just take a walk in the woods and I'll be reset and realigned. This has caused me to really go into my deeper practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I think, Leah, too? And
Mhm.
everything you said, I completely agree with. And you just got to make the best of the situation. But something you mentioned is really important. I want to make sure people can see it from my perspective, and perhaps it will resonate with a lot of people. Maybe it won't. But if everybody awakened and we got what we wanted, which would be to recluse and be away in our own little worlds and doing the things that we want to do, whatever that looks like to you, that is your passion. And we got out of the 3D jobs, there would be a very huge disconnect between the soul contracts we have between ourselves and those that are still stuck within it. And many of us we have volunteered to be like, I know that I volunteered. Now I
Yeah.
understand that I volunteered to work in that zoo in the latter half of the time I was there in a very dark climate. I don't need to tell everybody watching this, with the Smithsonian National Zoo,
Oh,
the negative energy with that. That's all I'm going to say.
yeah.
And I think I needed to be there because I really was a shining light. And people said that to me all the time. They're like, "Thank God you're here." People would come to me and just, "Can I come to my office? Can I just sit here with you?" And because it was a very dark, heavy, dense place. So I think that I was there to lighten it up and to help people that needed my light at the time. So I think that you, Leah, are where you are right now, because you're making a difference, and maybe you're helping that coworker that if you weren't there, they would be dreading their life and very depressed, and their energy would be completely different. And for anybody watching this, if you're in that 3D job, perhaps you're there for a reason to lift the energy, to shift the vibration. So it's not like you're being punished, and it's not like you did something bad. It's because your soul is strong enough that you chose to say, all right, I'll sacrifice X amount of years of my life in this job or these jobs. And there are many that you've been in that you struggled, because I can look back and there are a lot of vets that I worked at
Mhm.
that I was miserable and I hated being there, and the vets were mean and the staff was mean, and I just was like, why am I here? So I can look back and 20 years ago and say, I bet that's why I was there. And so you start to look back in your history and say, I think there was a purpose here. But you know what my favorite thing is? Because you said a lot of stuff, so I don't want to overlap. But my favorite thing to do in a toxic environment that is uncontrollable, like you literally just can't control it. Like it's like
Right.
where I was, you could cut the tension with a knife. People were stabbing each other in the back. It was blatant. It wasn't even hidden where I was. Just egos and power struggles with the people in the higher GS numbers. And us little minions in the lower GS numbers were doing all the work while they were fighting with each other. Um,
Right.
and what I found to be the most helpful was to uh, visualize a mirror around myself in all sides. So whether you're in a sphere of a mirror, you are protected on all angles, all sides, and all dimensions. from any energy that's just, sometimes we're in the crossfire of other people's drama and we
Right.
absorb it because we're so empathic, accidentally. So if we visualize this mirror, then really it just bounces back off and it goes really, it goes back to the person that it's sending it out. So you're not really sending it randomly to hit somebody else, and you're like, oh shoot, that was irresponsible of me. It goes back to the person that it was is sending it out. And I think it's a really powerful way to protect yourself in an environment that is not, you can't control it. You could do everything you want to balance the space. I've tried it. I've exhausted myself in my office, projecting light, making grids. You cannot control the energy of other people that come through. They can walk right through your grid and mess everything up within minutes. And you're like, man. So we have to figure out other ways to protect ourselves when we can't control everyone else and their entourage of energy.
I love that because thank you for sharing that because when I was a kid, my mom unfortunately she just would dump or attack and I didn't know how to one understand why, but it was really more just I needed to protect myself and like verbally attack or just say horrible things. So I knew it was coming from her younger self that was really injured and grew up in a experience, environment. So I don't, I never really felt it was really meant for me, but the mirror worked for me. I literally had to put up a mirror to say, okay, I'm not going to absorb this because I was such an empath. I would just take it to heart and I would think, oh, I need to own this poisonous arrow, and I would used to just take it and then I would just realize I'm exhausted. I can't take this anymore. But the mirror worked. But it was interesting because I would allow, for some reason, I would say it, the energy can choose to go back to her or just I also had a vision of it going right into the nature. Like we had a lot of trees and woods in the backyard. So I would say it's either going to go back to her or go right into nature and nature would clear it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea too. So perhaps it could be transmuted into another energy that is more neutral.
Yeah, or like in
Mm,
people's records, um I'll call on energies to help me clear, but I'll either send it to the light to be recycled and go where it's needed next. But I also learned to honor it, to say thank you for your lessons. I thank you for the energy of the wisdom you're leaving
mm,
behind and
yeah.
allowing to learn from, but the lower frequency of the darkness or the pain or the suffering is no longer allowed nor needed. And I send you to the light to be recycled or go where you're needed next. And usually I just feel it would kind of just go to the next area that it's almost called on, away from the person, away from, if it's me, away from my energy.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that wisdom is important for the lesson, because some of these are, like you said, spiritual lessons or,
Mm,
our contracts that we have with these people. So I usually also like to say I have an intention before I start my day, or I set an intention of how the day is going to look. Of I allow loving energy around me throughout the day. I allow blessings in my energy and in my experience today and throughout the day, so that I'm opening my energy to actually invite it in, if that makes sense.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
anything not serving my highest good or um, the energy of, the highest frequencies, I don't allow it. So I put a boundary. I kind
Mhm.
of set that intention of
Yeah.
nothing is of the lower frequencies is allowed in and around me at all times or around the clinic, if that makes if people feel confident in that. I just feel we do have the energy and we do have the power to say, no, this is not allowed. This is not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yes. I think our intention is one of the most powerful, like, superpowers that we have that
Yeah.
people aren't taught, so they don't think about it. And oftentimes we don't realize we inadvertently focus our attention on negative things. So we attract more negative experiences. That's where the law of attraction comes in. So if our intention is, I do not consent is a very powerful statement. I teach it to children the most. I'm like, let me teach the children because they'll get it. And they use it. I mean, I hear my daughter all the time saying, Mommy, I said I don't consent, because she'll listen to like an artist that I don't approve of. And I don't I let her be a human being. So like I in moderation, I'm like, fine, just listen to the music as long as you're mindful about not consenting to the subliminal messaging and things like
Yeah.
that. So it works. And other children will say, oh, I did it, and it helped me. I think we discount the power of our intention. Just, it's one of our biggest gifts, spiritual gifts, is to say, I am in control. I don't consent to this. And this is my intention. This is what I want to attract. One of my favorite things I say every day is, I'm so grateful I'm divinely supported, loved, and protected by the universe. And I always say abundance flows into my life with ease and in unexpected ways. And it's just something that flows out of my, like a stream of consciousness several times a day. Or when I go for a run, that's my intention when I'm running. I let go of anything not serving me, any energy, any entities that might be attached, any trapped emotions or anything that's holding me back. I'm like, I am choosing intentionally to
Yeah.
release it right now as I run and I breathe. I'm letting it go. And then I follow that with the positive thoughts of, I'm so grateful I'm protected, loved, supported by the universe. I call upon abundance to my life with ease and in unexpected ways. So that's another way that you and I are trying to relay that there's no right or wrong way to do anything that we're talking about. The point is we want to show people how many things, like you could think of anything, whatever your heart desires, whatever comes up in your mind is right for you. It doesn't have to look like what I'm saying or what you're saying. But I think the more we talk about it, the more people realize, oh, it doesn't, there's no protocol in one book that one author wrote that everyone has to follow. It's really, there's an infinite algorithm out there.
Yeah, and that's why too, like people who they're like, oh gosh, I was tuned to Reiki years ago, but I was drawn to do something different or drawn to do energy work in this way. It's like, oh gosh, that's just opening the door. Like as long as you're opening, everyone has the ability to do it. As long as and people who are self-taught or intuitive, they may be shown it a different way so that it can work better for them and their frequency. And I'm like, great, go for it. Like as long as the intentions are good or they're of a high frequency and you're not harming people. I mean, it's just interesting because I remember when someone said, oh, well, you can send love, but if before years ago when I learned Reiki, like I don't know, over 20 years ago, they said you can't send it without their permission. And I was like, okay, and
Mhm.
then someone else said, well, that was an old way. You can send it, but if they don't want it, it will go to someone who needs it. And
Exactly.
so then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let me just send love and like see
Yeah.
if they want the love, great. If they don't want love, then it will go to the plant or an animal or the person next to
Yeah.
them who may want it. So if it's all good intention, I think, then great. Why not? Like, let's go for it.
I love that. I love that you said that because that's one of the first things that I teach when I teach Reiki is the evolution of anything. It doesn't even matter what we're talking about. The evolution of cooking, the evolution of healing, the evolution of whatever, music. The point is that we should be fluid and allow it to evolve organically as where we are in our consciousness. So perhaps, you know, 20, 30 years ago with Reiki, it
Yeah.
wasn't conducive to our level of consciousness to send it out if someone didn't give permission. Maybe that's where we were collectively in our understanding. But now, like I'm like, I'm sending it out. And if they don't, and I even say, if like you said, if you don't want this, you have the absolute free will to block it, and it will go to the universe, to the earth, to whomever is nearby that wants to receive it, and it will go. It's intelligent, the energy. It doesn't just sit there and get lost. Like trust me, somebody nearby that needs it will be attracting it and it'll go right to them. And
Yeah.
I always tell people, despite what you think and how angry a person is, more oftentimes than not, their higher self is receptive and wanting the energy, even if they're saying no, even if they're saying, I don't want this on a conscious level. Their higher self is like, no, no, please give it to me. And
Yeah.
so you'd just be surprised how many people actually want it, even though you think that they wouldn't. So that's an
Yeah.
interesting point you brought up.
Yeah. It's interesting because, well, that was the other thing too, because I used to want to try to help everyone and try to help every situation to shift the frequency. And then I realized, oh gosh, I can't interrupt on if this is a spiritual contract, you know, uh, and they're playing out their role perfectly the way they are, and they're whole and complete exactly as they are. And I might be like, oh gosh, but they're infested with entities. Like, I want them to feel better. Because I've worked with people that I would try to clear off these lower frequencies or these attachments or even the cords. And they didn't, I found out, oh, some people don't want to release them. They've been with them for so long, they feel it's almost like an old friend. Um,
Yes.
and so that's when I realized, oh, okay. So I always would ask permission if, I mean, if I'm working with someone and we're working together as a team, but I had to realize, oh, this is their free will, of course, but they want, some people I didn't realize want the lower frequencies. I just kind of was naive to that because I was like, oh, I thought you wanted to be feeling good or feeling higher, and some of them don't. So I had to realize, let me just step away and kind of, I had to release my frequency from theirs because it was almost like attacking me, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I was getting attacked because of the they didn't want, they wanted to hold on to that lower vibrational energy, and I thought, oh, I'll just help clear you. And that was something that I couldn't sit in their frequency or be around them because their frequency was so low. And that's when I said, oh gosh, I just have to send love from a distance and not participate because it was too harmful for me. And but that's when I realized, oh gosh, not everybody wants to let go of that stuff, and that's okay.
Yeah. It might sound crazy to people listening to this, like, how can that be? But I've definitely, it does happen more often than you think. And it's just, if people get comfortable in these
Mhm.
patterns and these loops in the entourage of energy that they're surrounded with, that the thought of anything else outside of that, the unknown is so much more scary for them and overwhelming that they'd rather just kind of feel like, well, I've made friends with these entities. I accept this vibration that I'm in because it's comfortable for me. And that's it. And they're fine there. And we have to just say no judgment that, and when you're ready, or if you're ever ready,
Mhm.
I can help you best I can. And that actually pivoted really well to our topic that we wanted to talk about today, which was energy vampires. So let's talk about, from your perception, what an energy vampire is, because I know that sounds silly, but there's a lot of different interpretations. And also for those that are like, how do I know if I have an energy vampire or vampires? How do you get rid of them if you want them to go away and you're one of those people that are like, no, no, I don't want that. How do you protect yourself? And what are some ways to get rid of them? That you like to help people in your kind of your method.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed a lot of sensitive people and empaths, for some reason, the energy vampires are drawn to them, kind of like the moths to the light.
Mhm.
Um, whether the energy vampire can just straight see them in a crowd or see them, they just kind of, or they're drawn to their brightness or their light, or I believe some of it's obviously subconscious, but then there's some that they are just they know what they're doing. I see that more as like the narcissists or the ones that just want to take. Um, and so it's usually just this I mean, I guess it's hard to explain the energy of it in terms of, for me, it just looks like they can kind of throw a spider web around someone and just try to literally take all their energy so that there's either nothing left or just enough. So it feels very vampiric, but it's also very parasitic, where they'll keep the host around or strong enough just to keep feeding off of their frequency. Um, so it's usually, just a relationship where it's not balanced. There's not a ebb and flow of a, to me, it looks like an infinity sign that shows up where it's a gentle give and take, where I'm giving my love, but I'm also receiving love. And it's a
Mhm.
balanced frequency. This one feels more like they just take to the point of it's all consuming, and it's, I've had many relationships like that where you just can't give enough. Like nothing's good enough.
Yeah.
Nothing's to make them happy. It's just this almost to me like if someone can never feel full, it's like this emptiness in their stomach. It's like a hole in their stomach. That's the energy I feel that with the vampiric is just they're always going to say to the person, that's not enough. I need more. You're not good enough. You're not doing it the way I need it. It's just this
Yeah.
insatiableness. And so, unfortunately, a lot of sensitive people who want to please, who want to give love, who want to make people feel good, make them feel better about themselves or their situation, um, they're going to just dive deep into those relationships. And then
Yeah.
who knows if they'll get out of them. I've had my fair share of them where whether it was girlfriends or like meaning not like friendship girlfriends,
Mhm.
um, even boyfriends that were just you could never please them no matter how hard you tried it. And
Yeah.
um, it was just this, unfortunately, it was this very dark energy that would just kind of cling on and they could find those childhood wounds too to make sure that they were going to be like wrapped around that person's energy as much as possible and just kind of
Yeah.
almost take the life out of them. Is that
Yeah.
how you?
Yeah, I think the perfect word you use to describe is what I usually I refer to a lot is that parasitic energy, because it's like in order for the parasite to thrive, they need to take the life force of their host. But not all the way, because then they don't want, a lot of times they don't want them to die. Which actually, if I remember to circle back to this, a lot of people ask me why do they actually want people to commit suicide? Because there are entities that do that, and there's a reason for it. But I have to be reminded to go back to that. But yeah, I mean, I think there are different levels of energy vampires. There are those that are people who are, like you said, they need the energy of low vibration. They feed off of other people. So the empaths and things like that, you'll have that friend that is in a low frequency, and they'll allow the empath to just, oh, let me help you. And then they just suck all of the life out of us and we're getting drained. And really, it's not helping them in the way that we are hoping. It's really, they're just siphoning the life force to make
Yeah,
them feel good in the moment, but then they just go back to old habits. Like their intention generally in those cases is not to get better.
yeah,
And again, like you said, it could be subconscious. I don't think a lot of people are consciously like, yes, give me all your energy, Sherri. I'm going to take it all. And then I'm not doing, like, I don't think that they're facetious a lot of the times, but I'm sure some people are.
yeah.
But then there's energetic hosts that are like shadow beings. Like they don't have a consciousness. They're just like energy that's around us that is not a full entity because it doesn't have a consciousness, but it's
Mhm.
just like shadow beings, and they are attracted to the light workers energy, and like you said, the moth to the flame, and they just want to come and siphon off the energy because it feels good, and it gives them a boost. And the next thing, this is what happens to most people generally. They go to the grocery store. I'm going back to the grocery store, and if you don't shield yourself, you don't protect yourself, you're in a great place. You had a good night's sleep, you did your morning meditation, or I went on my morning run and I'm in a high vibe space and I don't protect myself. I go to the store, any and all energies in that store that are there hanging out or with other people and collectively, they're like, "Ooh, who's that just walked in the door?" And they like the energy. And then they're just gonna like whoosh, swarm me
Yes.
or the person in the example, and they're just gonna like little ticks, they're sucking away at all the energy, and they're like, this is amazing. And then I leave the store and I go home and I'm like, man, I need a nap. Why am I so tired? Why do I feel so drained? This is like the classic example. So it's a collection of just energy in the environment. So there's kind of two different vampires of energy. It's two people together and their energy is stealing someone else's, or you're just going out and you're vulnerable to like just anything around you that wants it.
Right. And I've even seen it in timelines for people like in the Akashic records, um some people have had incarnations with their family members who were vampiric in previous lifetimes and this
Mhm.
lifetime vampiric again. or they were murdered or killed by another the family member in a previous lifetime, and then they were reincarnated, and they're now they have soul contracts with this energy, and it's now their parent that previously killed them in another life,
Yes.
and they have to learn, and the parent is very vampiric off the child, or the child's a scapegoat. Nothing can be done right. It's just this constant berating. It's just a sad energy, but the soul contract is for this person to learn, no, I'm not allowing it in this lifetime. I'm not. And it was so dramatic in that previous lifetime where they were, murdered or killed by this person. And now they have to learn, oh, this is my parent or my child. And I have to set real boundaries. Otherwise, they are just going to be for their whole life drained anytime they come in contact with that person. And I've seen it in lineages where um, some people, they choose really fascinating spiritual lessons in this lifetime, and it's not an easy one. It's not going to be an easy life, but it's the most rewarding because then they get to that contract's complete, and they get to move on, and then they get to experience a different relationship. Or
Yes.
learn how to love themselves in a different way, or choose partners or other people that will actually give them the love that they're looking for, not that vampiric one.
I agree so much with what you said, and work with so many clients that have that exact same experience. And you hit the nail again on it. A lot of times, like people will be killed by someone in a past life or many lives, maybe three in a row, and then the killer will come in and be like, "All right, I'm gonna be your mom in the next life. Let's see how we can nurture this relationship." It happens all the time, and
Yes.
and then the mother has this cellular memory or recall or imprint, and they hate their child, and it repeats because they're like, I hate my child. I don't know why. And my client is oftentimes the child. I'm like, my mom was so mean to me my whole life. She hated me. Why was she was resentful? And I was such a good girl or a boy, and I did
Right.
everything right. What did I do wrong? I'm getting goosebumps because it happens so much, and I'm like, and we see that mom couldn't, it's still this lifetime, they still couldn't get over it. Like even as her child, the soul had so much anger from other you know what I mean? It can
Yes.
carry in the lineage, and it's crazy how that happens. But I think that this is the timeline of ultimate, I wouldn't say ultimate, but like um profound healing. So a
Yes.
lot of souls are choosing what my friend would say, a whammo. What was the word she always says? It's a whammo of a life. Like
Mm.
you sign up for a big one, like a big juicy whopper or whatever, as my grandma would have said. And like but you are, the good news is you should pat yourself on the back and say you have evolved enough that you could even take on this life. So
Yes.
just look at it from that perspective. Look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of myself that I was able to embrace this journey. And then my next advice to everyone after that is, okay, now you surrender and say, I understand. And everything changes in your life, and just everything starts to align and make sense because now you've surrendered and you're not
Yes.
resisting anymore. And although in that situation as a child, you can't control your mother, what you can control in that example that I just used, you can say, I surrender, and I recognize that I may not ever be good enough for my mom in this life, but I forgive her, and I understand, and I am cutting, I'm creating boundaries, and I'm releasing myself from that energy. And you can still heal in this life and maybe not have a relationship. Maybe you weren't meant to. Maybe you were supposed to get to a point where you created that boundary and you said, now I'm empowering myself and I'm going to move forward in what I need. And it's not what you were thinking the whole time, because most people think, oh no, we have to heal this relationship and become best friends. And sometimes that's just not at all possible. So again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's different perspectives, different dynamics.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the surrendering, because there's so many steps to it, and there's so many layers. Like everyone does it different. Like I've had so many times where I was like, "Oh gosh, I thought this was the final step, and it's not. There's like three other ones." But another one I had to learn was I forgive myself for having to experience this. I used to do a lot of the Ho'oponopono. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you, because it was just a mantra that it allowed me to say, oh gosh, I'm sorry, Leah, for little Leah,
Yes.
for you having to experience that in order for your spiritual growth. Please forgive me for asking for that contract, and let's surround it in love and gratitude for all the spiritual lessons, and let's keep that beautiful wisdom, but let's let go of the pain and the suffering. And I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. And thank you. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for being so strong. Because like you said, it helps us to evolve. Um, those whammies or whatever these are the lessons that are so hard, and they're not easy. And like I had because I work, with I have my own people need to call when I'm like, oh gosh, I have zero reserves, like I can't get there, can you help me? And they're like, oh my gosh, that was a rough go as a kid. And and just by someone hearing that, acknowledging that, I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't realize. Yeah, it's different. It was different. I just didn't think anything of it because I've also worked with people that had a million times worse. So, and I was always like, I'm just grateful I didn't have to go through theirs. But
Yeah.
just that acknowledgement saying, how this is good, you're going to be okay. It helps the evolution. It does help that spiritual progression. But there was one thing I had to learn, which I'm still going through. I had to mourn. Like you said, the relationship may not be, you can't, I wanted to be
Yes.
best friends with, my mom, but unfortunately, that's not how it's playing out, and that's okay. I actually just had to mourn that hope. I had a
Hmm.
more little childhood version of, oh, I want my mom to love me like this. I want to be loved and appreciated. And that's okay. I may never experience that in this lifetime, and that's okay. But I did had to mourn that little version of me wishing and praying for that, and it's okay. Like now I'm finally getting to that other side of, oh gosh, I didn't have that experience with my mom, but guess what? I had a beautiful grandmother and grandfather who shared their love in a gentle, loving way with
Yes.
me. I had it in other places. I have a partner that's allowing me to grow into a stronger version of myself and holding sacred space for me to grow. So it's almost like we get there. It's just we might not get there the way our little version of us thought, or maybe our higher
Hmm.
version. Who knows? Like,
Yeah.
but I did have to do a meditation once where I literally it finally clicked because I was trying to meditate and trying to find love from my mom, and I was like, "Oh, was doing this all wrong." It's because it skipped over her heart and just went straight to source and just went straight to God.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, here I was, silly me. I was looking for my mom's love, thinking that was God's love." When I just went straight to God's love,
Yeah.
and I got this source energy, which was perfect because I was like, oh, I didn't realize it just was fascinating how I was like, my little human self here, my little human experience, I was looking for my parents' love, and I was like, oh, if that doesn't exist, because so many people don't have that, you can go right to straight source and go right to God's love.
I love that. A lot of us are so programmed to think that, it's mom and dad. The dynamics of parent-child relationship is so convoluted, I think, in the human experience, and it's for a lot of reasons. I mean, there's we can't even go into all of the reasons right now. There's just so many. Um, but I think that that's the biggest challenge of a child who doesn't have those dynamics of love. They grow their whole life and they can have the best partnerships, friendships, lovers, you know, mentorships, in their life, and they discount all of that because they're still seeking the one thing that they can't get, which is their mother's love or their father's love. And they go their whole life discounting everyone else that's trying to show them, no, this is what love looks like. This is unconditional love. Our pets tried to do that for us. They do that for us. But some people are just so hyper focused on, no, it has to be my mom. And until I get my mom's, no one else matters. And that is a real loop that humanity finds themselves in, a lot of people. And like you said, if you get to a point where you realize, well, I have all these other things, and I can also get love from source and from God. And I don't require the love from her, because if you think about it, if you're, and we're not picking on moms today, this is just an
Yeah.
example. But if your mom
Right.
isn't in a place where she is healed and she can't love herself, she will never love you the way you need to be loved, because she is not in a space of forgiveness of herself, or she's not past that point yet. And so until you heal yourself, you can't unconditionally love someone else. So if they're not past that point, how can they give you what you need? So sometimes you have to say, I forgive you, mom, and it's okay. And I hope that you find the love that you need and the healing that you need. And then you, again, you surrender and say, I surrender this expectation or this need. And I open myself or my heart to receive love in abundance in other ways. And I think that's a great spiritual practice right now for a lot of people who cannot move on, because there's still people that I work with, their parents are passed, and they're still wanting or having guilt about, oh, I should have done it before my dad died or my mom died. And then they're even more in guilt and shame because they think that they did something wrong, and they spend the rest of their life feeling guilty. We got to let that go.
Oh yeah. And like I love that when you just surrender, um, it's letting that go, but then opening your heart to receive all the blessings in return. So it's almost, to me, it feels like you're clearing that energy that held space into your etheric template, but then you're replacing it with that abundance of love or gratitude or forgiveness, whatever. You're kind of like shifting out that dark, but then bringing in that light to fill in those spaces. Because I did notice, especially with addicts or people that didn't know how to love themselves yet, they would try to clear this darkness inside of them, or that yearning, or that kind of like needing to fulfill this, whatever it is that's causing them to choose the substance to numb themselves, like you said.
Yeah.
They're not replacing that, let's say, pain or suffering or self-loathing or whatever that energy is that's causing them to try to numb. If they're not, a lot of them I've noticed, they try to clear, they try to get rid of it, but then they're not replacing it to fill in the space with that joy or gratitude or
Yeah.
divine love from God or the universe or the nature, whatever it is. They're not, so it ends up being that void, and it ends up calling it in again. So then they're in this constant cycle of
Like,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh gosh, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy.
No, I think it's harder to heal than it is to just stay complacent and be in your comfort zone of your loop that you're in. It's so much easier to do that than, because it's work every single day, and it takes creating new patterns and new thought forms and being mindful about everything all the time. It's exhausting. And so
Yeah.
I get it. So I always tell people it's okay if you take your time with it. It's not a race, because I think a lot of people right now, specifically in this time frame where we are, 2024,
Yeah.
with the ascension and spirituality and soul healing on everyone's mind. People watch podcasts, they hear me speak, they read my books, they have sessions with you, and they hear all of these things, and then they compare themselves to everyone else around them, and they think that they need to be where that person is. And that's this mentality, the herd mentality of the human species. No judgment. We're all, I mean, we all have that embedded in our DNA and our consciousness, as a human species. That's how we've evolved over time, a lot of it from conditioning and programming. But I talk about in my book, the lion and the sheep mentality, and the lions are waking up, and we're activating, and we're embracing the change and saying, I want something more. But we have to try our best not to compare our timeline with somebody else, our friend or our neighbor or whomever, because we don't know the variables or the depths of the layers of healing that every person is going through. And some people require more time in between steps. Some people escalate in certain areas faster than others. So there really is no possible way, just like there is no two fingerprints the same, there is
Right.
no two healing journeys that look the same, because everybody is unique and different, and there's no two people that have the same needs. So you can't expect to heal in the time frame that others are healing in. So it can't be a race and it can't be a competition. You just have to, again, surrender to, I am on my divine timeline and I'm healing in the time frame that is of my highest good. I always tell people, call in the notion and the intention of whatever is in my highest good. And relationships, healing, abundance, whatever it is, it's in my highest good. So that way, it'll be in divine timing.
Yes.
I don't know. I just felt like I needed to say that right now because there are people out there, I think, struggling because they're thinking I'm doing something wrong because my friend has bypassed me. And people have I have actually lost friends, sadly to say, that I think resented me because I was in that dark place and got out of it and they didn't, and they hate me. They don't hate me, but they resent me for it. And I think a lot of people are in that boat too, where they've lost friends because they're being compared to, like it's a competition.
Well, it's funny you say that and thank you for sharing the lions and the sheep, because the way it showed up to me was also because I went through many dark moments, and I would just I would try to leave. I would try to like leave those spaces where I was just repeating those patterns, and I was really self-destructive, and I was beating myself up every day I could, and doing stuff that was not serving my highest good, and I wasn't on my divine path. And but it was almost like, the crabs in a bucket, where the crabs try to get out of the bucket, and then they pull the other crab that's right in the tip, that's trying
Yes.
to jump out of the bucket, but then the other crabs are pulling it down. So it's this constant feeling of, oh no, if you raise your frequency, or you clear and you heal and you get out of that lower vibrational energy, you're no longer going to be my friend. So I got to pull you back. So
Mhm.
it'd be all these fascinating ways of like, and I did notice it with some friends, that they were just not happy that I was trying to evolve and trying to get out of these negative, for me, there were negative loopholes and negative patterns. And it was very self-destructive for me. And they really liked where I was, because I was always trying to please them. And I was
Mhm.
always trying to cater to them. And I was always doing what they wanted. And I was constantly, helping their ego. But I was last on the list. And when I finally started saying, gosh, there's a way I'm choosing the same path every day, getting these results. Let me shift and try a different way. Oh, let me start eating better foods. Let me stop drinking, this insane amount of alcohol that was keeping me in this negative mindset.
Mhm.
They were those crabs trying to pull me back down. Hey, come, let's go, and let's it just was so fascinating, because I finally started to be more present with the energy I was circling around and keeping in my environment. And that's when I realized, oh, that's why they say sometimes, oh, when you do shift, or if you do come clean, or whatever it is you're trying to shift and evolve into, you may have to let go of some friends. You may have to, because they may not want you to be in a higher frequency, because they don't want to be there with you, and that's
Mhm.
okay. But it is a lot of mourning. It is a lot of losing friendships, I think, for those that they
Yeah.
don't want to, be there. Or I always thought too, well, hey, if I can find a way out into a higher vibration, maybe you can try my way, and then you can come with me. And I would always be like, hey, let's try this,
Mhm.
and some people don't want that. They
Yeah,
don't,
they
and
don't
it's
want it.
okay. No.
And that's that there's a clear divide, I think, that we're seeing in the collective as a result of many things, but specifically the pandemic period.
Mm.
Regardless of where you were on the fence or where you are now with all the political stuff and the medical stuff, I'll speak broadly.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. The point is that we have been given the potential, all of us individually as well as collectively, to awaken. And through
Right.
that awakening process, we are healing, again, individually and collectively. And I think that that is causing a clear divide amongst the lower vibrational people that are content and want to stay where they are, like we've mentioned, and those that want something more may not know what that is, but are certainly want something better and to be in a higher vibration. And it's it's impossible to go through that. It's such a wide scale of 8 billion people or however many are on the planet, um, without losing, causing more division and losing friends and even family members or siblings fighting with each other or whatever it may be. It's just, it's part of the process. And some people, I believe, and people don't like when I say this, but I'm curious how you think. I think that some people volunteer to be in a lower frequency in this life to push push other people out of it. So they're like, I'm going to volunteer to remain in this low frequency. I'm going to piss you off and I'm going to make you so mad that you go the opposite direction and I'm going to motivate you, but I'm never going to evolve because I'm not meant to. Like, this isn't, they didn't come in for that. And not because they're a low vibrational soul. They chose to sacrifice themselves in this life a little bit for everyone else's learning. Maybe they're already evolved and they're like, I'll play the role of the antagonist. I'll come in here and I'm going to do a bunch of these and I'm going to, like all the things that a lot of us are repelled with right now. And I'm going to do all of those things. So you are really angry and, and then you go in the other direction. So there's a lot of that. So I agree with you. Like, our relationships are being tested, but it's a good thing. Instead of being sad about all the friends that you have lost or are losing, think about how, like, try to shift your mindset to, I'm so excited about the new pathways that are opening up and the people that are more in alignment with my resonance I'm attracting. And I can't wait to meet them. I can't wait to meet my tribe and get excited about that. Because like you said, in the work environment, laughter is key. Excitement is also key. So for you to be, I'm so excited, I can't wait, it shifts your energy to a whole new vibration. And then you will start to run into a new person out at the store or a mutual friendship or whom. I mean, look at us. I was, I was like, oh, I don't have any friends that I align with. And then all of a sudden I met you and all these other people. Now I'm talking to so many. Now, none of them, unfortunately, are in my area as of yet. But still, I feel like, yes, I've got people that I resonate with and they're coming to me because I had to kind of purge those that were holding me back. So it's a process.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. Thanks for saying that, because a lot of my clients that call me for sessions, they might be in different parts of the world. Like, I have clients in Australia, I have clients throughout the US, and some of them are like hermits, like I would like to be, but they're like, oh no, I don't really have many friends, and I want to meet, I want to have a soulmate that is that can handle my frequency, that can handle my vibration. And so they're like, I'm tired of being alone. And it's interesting because a lot of them too volunteered to help keep the frequency at a certain space, and they're positioned on the earth in certain ways where they are almost, to me it looks like an energy generator, where they give energy out, they keep the frequency high, they allow people to remind, it's almost subconscious, where if someone gets in their frequency, then they get a reminder that, oh, they can remain in a high frequency as long as they'd like, because some of these people are older and they're like in their 70s saying, I really want a soulmate that thinks like me. And they have specific directions of like calling in a soulmate, calling in friends. Some of them go to these events where they can meet like-minded souls. Like, yes, I think a lot of us are in different areas, but it's so much fun because having, platforms like yours, like Tyler and Aaron's, like they get to have people land on the platform. You get to have people land on your
Yes.
platform, where we can still remind each other we're okay. We're not a minority, I don't think either. I could be wrong, but I realize that there's a lot of people that think like us or are sensitive or are awakened. We just have been more quiet about it. We're not
Yeah.
putting our flags out, telling everyone to think like us. No, we're actually saying, um, keep going with it and keep finding your answers, keep on your spiritual quest
Mhm.
of evolution and connecting to God, and keeping your God-given body. I don't know about you, but I've been coming in a lot of contact with people that don't like their body that they were given to by God, and they want to mutilate it. And that's the sad part for me, and I was asking myself, well, Leah, why are you so sad? This is their free will. Like, you need to honor their free will. And I realized, oh, I'm really sad because I think a lot of them, unfortunately, were programmed to think like that.
Yeah.
I don't know who is truly authentically wanting to mutilate themselves. I don't know if they are authentically feeling like they don't belong in that body. They could possibly, some, I'm sure they do. But for the majority, I found it's a multi-million dollar business, and it's catering, it's like a vampire energy, drawing into these young minds that are easily manipulated or malleable. They don't have a true sense of self yet, or they've been programmed to not think of who
Yeah.
they truly authentically are. But I guess the deepest part of it for me was I had to release it, but I wondered why I was so sad about it, and I also had to mourn. I found it was, oh, because they're not honoring their God-given body. They're not honoring Source's body that was given to them. And I, for some reason, thought, well, God gave you a body so that you can learn your spiritual lessons, learn your contracts,
Hmm.
um, but also learn what it's like to be in your God-given body. I thought that was also one of your contracts or your karma.
Hmm.
So if you're trying to mutilate or shift that, then are you learning your spiritual lessons? Are you healing your karma? That's a question I'm still, trying to figure out. But I just thought, oh, it's because they're disrespecting and disgracing their God-given body. So that's why I was like so deeply hurt, because I'm living in a state where children are being mutilated. They're being allowed to mutilate. They're
Yeah.
Whoever's RB are allowing this, and I'm very sad because a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, these are questions they shouldn't be, I don't even think, talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of opinions and thoughts on this topic as well. And I think it's a really important topic, especially because I'm and you are so passionate about the manipulation of the young ones. It's a clear target. And I think that it's a program, what I call, where I refer to as 3D interference in my previous book, and also 3D influence in my newest book. I titled it those as broad categories, and to bring awareness to certain agendas, and
Right.
transhumanism and themselves, and the mutilation of the body, is just for them, it's just a pathway. It's just a step to um, to full control by confusing the identity or stripping us of our identity so that we are more manipulated into merging with technology or AI, so that ultimately we will truly will be unsovereign, because right now
Yes.
we're just manipulated into thinking that. And there are a lot of things they do to ensure that we feel we're sovereign when we're not. And there's a lot of variation to that. But they do that unfortunately, by targeting the young mind. And if you look back in time, and I'm old enough to see from my vantage point of my life. I'm in my 40s. And so when I grew up as a young adult, there was no gay people on TV. And then it
Right.
went to, there was one or two, and it started to be socially acceptable. And then everyone had that gay friend, and they
Right.
were really funny and outgoing. And then it went to, there were several. And then they started adding letters. And then you see the progression. I have seen the progression over the years, from the 80s, specifically when I was born, 81, to now. And now I can look back and I'm like, there's been clear steps. And then they got to a point where there had to be at least one character in every show. Then it's now dominating characters. Now there's whole themes, there's whole channels.
Yeah.
Then they slowly started integrating more of the trans movement. And so if we hypersexualize the children with music and undertones and themes of shows and how they dress, and the dynamics of social media and how they've hijacked the young minds of our children. While parents are busy working, they have no idea that their children are being programmed by various levels of programming and manipulation, hypersexuality and gender confusion and identity. And now they're inserting those suggestions in the show. So now the children are like, am I a boy? Am I a girl? I don't know. And they're confusing them. And
Yeah.
they're not going to their parents for help because they've dismantled the family unit structure on purpose. So now they're going to their peers. Well, the worst thing you can do as a young mind is go to another young mind and try to figure something out if you want
Yeah.
to be productive. So
Right.
now they're going to each other or they're watching TV to get their advice from these shows that are clearly meant to manipulate them, but they don't see it. And then
Right.
that's leading to where we are now, where the surgeries are taking place. And now it's the next level in the scheme of many more levels to come, as I see it, as I hopefully I explained well. And it's all about manipulating the young ones and dismantling the family unit so that we can take advantage and reprogram them. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of souls that are coming in that aren't fully healed yet and are coming in with trauma work are susceptible to that programming, and they're confused, and the agenda is working on them. And unfortunately, they are doing things and making decisions at a young age, and they are regretting it later. A lot of children are regretting it, because I have some clients that have done some things and they clearly regret it. So we're seeing the backlash of it, so to speak, as it's happening congruently. But I also think that there are volunteer souls that say, I want to come in and I'm going to do this and I'm going to hate it. And I'll be a pioneer of an opposite movement where I'll volunteer to come in and I'm going to do the change. And then I'm going to have bad health effects. And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to raise awareness so I can tip the scale back and start to show now we've got two sides here, and now people can formulate, and now we're having conversations about it. Parents are getting more involved. So this is how you change. This is how you make change. You see the agenda clearly and say, okay, I'm going to insert these things to tip the balance in our favor. And I think that's where we are right now in 2024. People are pissed off about it. Parents are taking their kids out of school. And I'm going on a rant right now because these are the things I'm passionate about when they attack the children. But people
Right.
have to know the progression and their idea that they had 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we're in the thick of it now. And so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, well, and that's the energy I'm getting when someone's walking through the door, and I feel all of a sudden this wash of self-loathing. I hate myself. I hate my body. I hate everything about them. And the energy I'm feeling, I'm hearing without even seeing them first. Like I'll feel that and then I'll be like, "Oh no." And then I'll look and then I'll see this person just needs some help, and this person needs some guidance of and just needs to go within. And maybe they've already done the surgery, maybe they've already started the hormones and all this stuff. But what I'm also realizing too is it's making them so susceptible to entities, to they've already most likely had them already on them to kind of speaking in their ear, you have to do this, you have to do that. They're hormonally unbalanced. They smell different. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but for me, they smell different. They it's very broken frequencies and broken energy. Their aura is not, it's all broken. Um, so it's sad because the human element's gone. Like, oh, they might have already changed their DNA with, whatever it was in those jabs. So again, they're not, that transhumanism is already showing itself. And but I guess the frequency is, it's so distorted to me, but it's also so foreign because um I guess I never felt like this before, where it's like um it's a new energy of foreignness that I don't, it's really hard to actually sit in or be in front of or be in the same room with, for me, because again, it's also, I try to connect in the heart space. I try to connect. What is this? Is this person okay? Do they need mental help? Do they need someone to tell them everything's going to be okay, that they're okay, that, and are they going to commit suicide? Like there's so much where all these signals show up in my energy, And then I'm like, oh, their heart, they don't want that connection too. Like whatever's driving their ship or driving their body or whatever, taking over, that it cuts the heart, like connect. Cause the way I see it is my heart goes out to try to feel someone's heart and kind of connect. And I'm getting a quick, don't touch me, don't even come near me. And that's a lot of times too, the entities don't want that heart space connection. So it's fascinating because I'm like, oh, I didn't realize like we are dealing with a new species. Like it's a different frequency on so many levels, and they are manipulating it too. Yes, it's causing the fabric of the family completely to disintegrate, but it's also um obviously how they come within a society to try to break in and infiltrate the society so that they can come in and take over. So there's so many, it's sad, but it's also real. You're right. There is hope where if you are putting these little points throughout this timeline of saying, hey, have you studied you know hormone blockers for only 20 years, because a lot of these people unfortunately are going to end up with certain cancers they'll end up dying. And then so the parents, it's fascinating because I'm like, do you know that you might be setting up your child to die in 15 years because of complications of their health, or 10 years? Like, do you even care about having their longevity? Like, we're shortening the longevity of lives now. Like, we're not trying to keep people to live in blue zones and live till they're 100.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to the barbaric genetic testing and mutilation and manipulation that we've seen for thousands of years in different ways. And now, just like this that we just had years ago, where people were willing participants to be the experimental walking experiment. So I'll try it. I'll see what happens. People are willingly going in and doing these changes to their gender as like it's like they don't need to hide it in government facilities anymore. It's just out in the open and people are volunteering. I'll do it.
For
And it's
free.
just for
They're
free.
getting it for free.
Yeah. And it's just like now it's out, and now the manipulation, mutilation, genetic modification, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is being done out in the open, and people are protesting for it and advocating for it. And parents are it's insane. So instead of taking the tone down, I think it's important first that we're talking about it, because we're raising awareness first and foremost. But um, I think circling back to this psychic attack and entity attachments, because ultimately, I'm going in circles right now. All of my books, I feel like, have ended in the same way. I always come to the same conclusion.
Mhm.
Ultimately, if you go within and you create boundaries, you surrender, you forgive, you really go and do the work, and you trust yourself, and you eat well, and you surround yourself with high vibrational people, and you read books that are enlightening and activating for you, and you shift your whole lifestyle, your whole mindset. None of the programming, none of the manipulation will work on you. So if we focus on going within, then none of this is all a moot point, because then it will stop working. So we have to circle back to, okay, how do we heal, go within, so that none of this works? But we have to go back a bunch of steps, back to our initial conversation. So how do we get the energy vampires away, and how do we protect ourselves? And the number one way I always tell people when they ask, how do I know if I have an entity attachment? Because I don't want people to feel like they have to come to me for a session or come to you. We should evolve to a point where, unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, our help is obsolete, because we don't want people to rely on us in the new earth. We're just helping them get there. So how can you tell on your own? And I always tell people, and I want to hear what you think or what your clues are. But the number one advice I give people is, if you feel like you are saying to yourself at any point, I do not feel like myself, I am saying or feeling things that is not like me, that is a very good indication that you are surrounded by or have an entity attachment. Those are two different things. Just because some people have an entity attachment, meaning an entity is hooked into their auric field, they're connected. And then there's a difference between that and just entities around them influencing them. And they're just poking. There's a difference. So how do you tell? So that's my first clue to tell people. And then we go from there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, and interesting because I've heard, I mean, I have had entities, so I know, I mean, and the lower vibrational energies, like an entity would be like, why don't you just commit suicide? Like, why don't you just off yourself? Like, get it over with. Like, and I'm like, these are not my thoughts. I never wanted to disrespect. When I was a child, when I was 4, I remember, or it was 3 or 4, I remember saying to myself, I was looking outside in nature and I said, I don't want to come back here and do this over again. This is too hard. So I have to do this right. So I already knew for some reason at a really young age that I didn't want to mess up too much to have to come back and do it all over again. So like and I just felt, oh, offing myself or committing suicide would be one of those. Um, so that I was like, this is not my voice. This is not my thought. Like those are the lower ones of self-harm. Um, and just anything that is like, oh, you should just use this knife or whatever. Like people have had, I had one woman I worked with that she said she was hearing, "Well, just hang yourself, just hang yourself." That was another thing when, um, unfortunately, entities too can show up a lot with family lineages that have had, suicide. Suicides can unfortunately run in family lines, and so unfortunately, on my mom's line, there were suicides, a few of them, and so I had to clear that. So, but I realized too, okay, what's the difference between my family line and lineage versus and like family constellation stuff versus an entity. So there, for me, I had to distinguish those, because for me, they felt different. But I guess the point, just to make it try to be simple, as long if it's not if you're feeling these are dark energies or voices that are definitely not yours, you can even pick them up from. I've had to clear energies that people watched dark,
Yes.
horrific movies and they picked it up
Yes.
on TV. So like I have people energetically, we have to put a white light of love and light in front of the TV and wrap it. So that only love and light is allowed into that home. Nothing of that is of lower frequency is allowed in and around that home, even if it's coming from the TV, the music, anything. Um, I put a lot of again, shapes around my house of light and love. And I do a lot of different frequency clearings in my home, but I have to first clear me, then I clear the room, then I clear the house, then I clear the whole um, yard, and then I go outward. So that's how I have to do it in terms of checking, because I've had to clear the house multiple times because various people show up with their entities. So I have to clear what was
Yes.
left behind. I don't know if I'm sorry, I
No,
just
no.
kind of.
No, I mean this is not an interview, this is a conversation. So people are overhearing our thoughts. So it's perfect. I love it. I like it to be more natural and unplanned. And I agree with all of what you're saying. And I feel like I feel the need because I said something earlier to go back and you just reminded me about the suicide. Why are people being guided to commit suicide? What's the benefit for the addiction collective too with I don't like to say words because I don't want to get my channel taken down, but there are things in the drugs right now that are causing people to die immediately and starts with an F. And what's the benefit of that? Why are we killing people off? Why are we being convinced to commit suicide? Why are these voices in our head? And there's two main reasons for it. One is just like when we go through a birth portal and we are born into this life, there's a huge amount of energy associated with that, almost euphoric, almost tantric in some way, which is why some women actually have orgasms when they give birth. Never happened to me, but it's known.
Yeah.
Um, and so same with the death portal, but I'm talking about the positive, not traumatic dementia death portal. I'm talking about when a soul is ready to transition. There's a beautiful, almost euphoric energy as they cross over, as they leave the body. The entities that are in our third dimension, they love that. It's like a ecstasy boost. It's like they just took a very powerful, potent drug and they love that energy. So they don't care about sacrificing. There's billions of people on the planet. So they're like, they just look at us as I'm going to get a really big high from this person's death. And if it is a traumatic death, they like that lower vibrational energy too. So it doesn't have to be a euphoric death for us. It's just death in general, that death activating that death portal they feed off of it. They love that energy. So that's first and foremost. But secondly, if I believe that they know the people who are high vibrational beings that come in here with some sort of a purpose. So if they can off us, if they can convince us to exit on our own, they just won because they're like, good, one less light worker on the planet. Get out of here. You know, like they don't want us here. So they're going to, through voice of God technology, they're going to implant negative affirmations. I talk about this of kill yourself. You're not good enough. You don't belong here. You're never, all of those negative frequencies that are being emitted. And then we have the black box technology with the televisions where there are portals in the TVs, the phones, the iPads, the computers, the screens, and the mirrors. I talk about this in my last book. They're all portals. And if you're watching a scary movie, I don't really allow my kids to watch scary movies, but sometimes I can't prevent it. Especially my older son, he's 19. But I'm like, so whenever I hear something along those lines, I immediately put a shield around the TV. I say, I do not consent to anything coming into my home. And because you can, there's so much around us that we're being bombarded with. So if we just center ourselves, ground ourselves, and say we don't consent, stand in our power, go within, do the healing work, create boundaries, none of this works. So it's not about instilling fear. It's about giving people information and tools and techniques so that they can feel empowered and not be vulnerable or susceptible to all of this 3D interference.
Oh yeah, and that's beautiful because like I would for throughout sessions, like people's guides and loved ones would, clear negative chords, any chords that are not in the highest frequency, because chords that are in the heart space or the heart center of love, then those are always allowed, of course. But chords of lower frequency of pain, suffering, anything that's keeping that person not in their highest good, those are we usually have to eject, reject, clear them out of the energy and then send them to the light or the earth to be recycled or go where they're needed next. But then in return, a high frequency is placed where those chords once held. But also I've had to do it for myself, but I've also had to do it for clients where, as an example, vows from previous lives or contracts that are not serving that person's highest good. Like literally one client, he was sick for years, like on the brink of almost death, and um he had Lyme disease and all these other things. And then his guides, because he would call me for sessions once in a while, and um his guides would help him get to a certain frequency, but then he could sometimes go low, back down. Finally, his guides were like, we're going to clear this contract. This contract is null and void. It is complete. The lessons are learned. You're done with the whole um part of being sick and
Yeah.
dark place. That contract of being sick to learn a spiritual lesson that was from a previous life, it's no longer, it's, they literally just voided it, and they were like, contract is null and void, you're done. Let's write a new contract of health, of healing, high frequency, empowerment. And that's when I was like, oh gosh, this is fun. I can do this for myself. I didn't know I could clear a contract and null and void it. Like I've had to do it with family members. Like if I have a narcissist and a vampiric energy as a family member, and I don't want to handle it anymore. I don't want to be in that frequency. Like I've had to just say, okay, this contract's null and void with this narcissist. This contract is complete. I will keep the lessons, I will keep the wisdom, and I'll honor them. But the pain and suffering is now null and void and complete, and we are done. And that's when I realized, oh gosh, like this is called empowerment. This is called standing in your truth, keeping your frequency to what feels good for you. I didn't know I was allowed that because I wasn't raised in that environment where I was allowed to feel comfortable. Like I just wasn't, I didn't know that was an option. So for the like, and then I realized, oh my gosh, this shows up for so many people in their records and in their Akashic records. Let me try it for me. I'm allowed to be in love. I'm allowed to be in a high frequency and feel comfortable. Oh, thanks. And that's when I realized, oh, this is possible for everyone.
I love that. That was so beautiful, Leah, that I think that we should end on that beautiful note. I think that was perfect way to just kind of sum up our conversation. It was so well put. So I'm going to put in the links below or the description your information, but tell everybody how they can get in contact with you, how they can get a Akashic reading with you. I think it's just leahraylight.com. Is that right?
Yeah, it's Leahraylight.com. And there, I just have it set up where you can um, purchase time, and we can do pretty much anything during that time. That is, we go into the Akashic realm. I like to also check people's aura and chakras, and just um, I do energy work if that's allowed too, if they allow me, just to realign. Sometimes people need realignment. Sometimes we need to clear or cut cords or release them. Sometimes we just need to check the home. So really, I just have people purchase the time, and then we can use that time however that person feels will be the best for them. So that's why people are like, which session should I get? It's like, you can get all of them. We can fit them all
Perfect.
in. Just
We could
let's just,
customize. Yeah.
yeah, it's for
Yeah.
that specific protocol for that person, whatever they feel
Yeah.
is needed at the time.
I do the same thing. I think it's nice just to book the time and then we'll do what you need. You never know until you get in there. So, and I had a reading with Leah, everybody, and it was fantastic. Everybody needs somebody to go to, you know, so I had a beautiful session with you and it was so magical. So I highly recommend you so much. I respect you so much, Leah, and you're a great dear new friend of mine. And I can't wait about some future things that we're working on, which we'll share later. But it was really nice having you here today, joining us for this a much needed conversation, I think.
Thank you. And I honestly am so grateful. You're so brave and bold to just put this information out there, and have your platform for people to land on. Like, you're just it's important to have these beacon of light for people to know. Look, if you see it as like this beautiful lighthouse of like, hey, we're over here if you need us. There's a safe lighthouse of love, and
So
be careful, there's some rocks, or there's just don't navigate carefully, and that way it's just like this nice beautiful energy of like, hey, we're all in this together, we can help each other, and hey, this is going to be beneficial if you want to try it like this, or these people are trying it like that. So thank you so much for sharing your light with everyone, because uh, I'm just always in awe of people that can just be out there, doing the work, but also sharing it for the public, because that's so
yes,
amazing and important.
I love that. I love that. We're creating a safety zone for people to come in and listen and heal and come together. I love that. I'm going to change my title to safety zone. I love that. All right, Leah, it was so nice to have you. I hope that this message and conversation has found all of you well. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.